It's from these many countries, a very good morning to you, and we hope we can have your undivided attention. إلى حضورنا الكريم نتمنى نحصل على انتباهكم لبضع لحظات. Distinguished guests and dear delegates, we are about to commence our 13th Ministerial Conference brought to us by the WTO. However, our sign to commence will be your collective attention by taking your seats. Only then we can take the cue and we can commence, of course, this promising gathering of ours. حضورنا الكريم، نحن على وشك بدء أعمال هذا المؤتمر. إشارة البدء ستكون أخذ مقاعدكم وبعدها نتوكل على الله. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, our cue to start the proceedings of today's conference will be you taking all of your seats, and only then we can commence. Good morning, everyone.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Ambassador Santiago Wells, the Director of the World Trade Organization Council and Trade Negotiations Committee Division and Secretary of the 30th WTO Ministerial Conference. He will be facilitating the proceedings of this opening session.
His Excellency, President Azali Assoumani of the Union of the Comoros. His Excellency, President José Manuel Ramos Horta of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste. His Excellency, Dr. Thani bin Ahmed Al Sayudi, Minister of State for Foreign Trade of the United Arab Emirates and the Chairperson of the 13th session of the WTO Ministerial Conference. The MC13 Vice Chairs, His Excellency Honorable Todd McClay, Minister for Agriculture, Forestry, Hunting and Fishing and Trade of New Zealand. His Excellency Mr. Jorge Rivera Staff, Minister of Trade and Industry of Panama. And His Excellency Mr. Luke McLaurin Mbarga Atangana, Minister of Trade of Cameroon. Her Excellency Dr. Atalia Lesiba Molokome, Permanent Representative of the Republic of Botswana to the United Nations and other international organizations in Geneva, and General Council Chairperson. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the opening session of the 13th WTO Ministerial Conference in Abu Dhabi. Marhaba. Our 13th session takes place as we mark the 30th anniversary since the establishment of the WTO. Let us give a round of applause for our MC13 host, the United Arab Emirates, for their hospitality and warm welcome to the MC13 participants. Our opening session will have 4 segments. Let me walk you through each of them. During the first segment, we will hear the welcome remarks of the MC13 chairperson. This will be followed by the opening remarks and formal transmittal of work by the General Council chairperson. Thereafter, the MC13 chairperson will propose that the Ministerial Conference adopts the MC13 agenda. We will then proceed to the second segment, which is the ceremonial part of the opening session. We will then move to the third segment, the accessions ceremonies. This will include the MC13 chairperson proposing that the Ministerial Conference adopts the report of the Working Party and the draft decision on the accessions of Comoros and Timor-Leste, and approves the draft protocols of accession of Comoros and Timor-Leste. The presidents of Comoros and Timor-Leste will address the Ministerial Conference. Congratulatory remarks will be provided by the MC13 chairperson and the Director General. This will immediately be followed by the signing ceremonies of the protocols of accession of Comoros and Timor-Leste. We then transition to the final segment of the opening session, which is the ceremony for the deposit of instruments of acceptance of the Fisheries Subsidies Agreement. During this segment, the Director General and the MC13 chairperson will provide congratulatory remarks. Thereafter, each minister or head of delegation who would deposit instruments of acceptance today will be called to the stage one by one. After all of the individual deposits, the ministers or heads of delegation who have just deposited and all other ministers or heads of delegations of members who have previously deposited their instrument will be invited to come up to the stage for a fish family photo. At the end of the ceremony, the MC13 chairperson will officially close the opening session of the 13th WTO Ministerial Conference. As you can see, we have a full morning ahead of us. Given this, we seek ministers' indulgence not to seek to take the floor during any of the segments. We also request everyone to remain seated, turn your phones to silent mode, and avoid taking pictures during the session, and use the headphones in case you would need interpretation. With these words, let us now turn to the first segment of the opening session. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and privilege to invite His Excellency Dr. Thani bin Ahmed Al Seyudi to provide his welcoming remarks as the chairperson of the 13th WTO Ministerial Conference.
Thank you, Ambassador. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Your Excellency, Dr. Ngozi, the WTO Director General, Your Excellency, Dr. Athalia, the WTO General Council Chairperson, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and very good morning. It is with a great pleasure to welcome you all to the United Arab Emirates for the 13th session of the Ministerial Conference of the World Trade Organizations here in Abu Dhabi. As the chairman of this very important conference, it is a privilege to address such distinguished guests, and it has been a pleasure to work with you all in preparation for this moment. Over the past 3 decades, the WTO has been a global safety net, offering stability, transparency, and predictability to the international trade. And the WTO has contributed to raising living standards, improving employment opportunities, and enabling the expansion of trade in goods and services. We in the UAE can bear witness to this. Through international trade, we have managed to rapidly transform our nation into global and regional trade hub. Our economic transformations over the past 50 years is evidence of the opportunities that come with the international trade. And of its enormous potential to improve people's life. This is why I'm particularly glad that today we welcome two least developed countries, Comoros and Timor-Leste, to WTO membership. We know that many others, including from Arab worlds, eagerly await their turn to take their due share of the opportunities that WTO membership offers. The WTO remains a powerful force in countering the current unilateral protectionism and discriminations. It is an important part of the global efforts to attain the UN Sustainable Development Goals and to ensure an inclusive, equitable, multilateral, rules-based trading system. 30 years since the establishment of WTO, the world economy and the international trade landscape have significantly evolved. Technological developments and exchange of information and ideas have been driving the global economy forward. The services sector continues to be a key driver of global trade, but traditional sectors like agriculture remain critical for all countries, small, medium, and high, and large. However, the traditional sectors and traditional assumptions of which WTO has been anchored cannot stand on their own anymore. The evolving circumstances of negotiated areas and the fast-changing environments we live in demands new thinking. The growth of the WTO membership and its diverse priority requires a dynamic approach from the WTO, one that respects the rules that bind us all as WTO members, but also enables the WTO to advance and be forward-looking to achieve our collective goals. Excellencies, the multilateral trading system with the WTO at its core is at a critical juncture. It is confronting many challenges. We have witnessed shifting of priorities in addressing climate change and sustainability issues. Many countries are experiencing debt and cost of living pressures, food security, and slow recovery from COVID-19 pandemic. Equally, persistent development challenges and geopolitical tension continue to impact lives and livelihood as well as international trade. This 13th WTO Ministerial Conference can be the launchpad for a future of a global trade and reformed WTO that is prepared to address current and future trade challenges. We can and must achieve this. We have seen the work that our negotiators have done to prepare our engagement that will be formally transmitted to us. Let me take a moment to express my deep appreciation to Dr. Ngozi, the Director General of WTO, and Her Excellency Dr. Atalia, the General Council Chairperson, for their tireless efforts, together with all of you, to prepare the draft Abu Dhabi MC13 package. Excellencies, colleagues, and friends, we in the UAE are determined to make this ministerial conference a success. And as chairperson, I'm fully committed to creating an environment of comfort for all delegates to conduct negotiations freely, frankly, and constructively in the upcoming days. I now ask all of you to show the world that WTO is alive and well and is fully capable to deliver results that matter to people everywhere. We also need to show through the outcomes of this conference that trade and the multilateral system can and will contribute to development. We have the unique opportunity to collectively shape the future of trade. It rests in each of our hands. Let us seize this moment to shape it wisely and ensure a prosperous future for all countries. Welcome to UAE and looking forward to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Al-Sayyoudi. Let me now invite the chairperson of the WTO General Council, Her Excellency Dr. Atalia Lesiba Molokome, to address the Ministerial Conference.
Thank you, Ambassador Wills. Your Excellency, Mr. Asumani, President of the Union of the Comoros, Your Excellency, Dr. Jose Ramos Horta, President of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste, Your Excellency, Dr. Thani bin Ahmed Al Zaoudi, Minister of State for Foreign Trade of the UAE and Chairperson of the 13th session of the Ministerial Conference, Excellencies, Vice Chairpersons of the 13th Ministerial Conference, Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, Distinguished Director General, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, distinguished delegates and guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is my distinct honor to address you at the opening ceremony of this 13th session of the WTO Ministerial Conference. On behalf of the WTO membership, I would like to express our deep gratitude for the warm welcome and hospitality shown to us by the authorities of the UAE and its people since our arrival on your beautiful shores. Our particular appreciation goes to His Excellency Dr. Thani bin Ahmed Al Zaoudi, who's just addressed you, Minister of State for Foreign Trade of the UAE, for chairing this conference. Let me stress, Excellencies, that the UAE's offer to host MC13 and the efforts to ensure its success are a testament to the value the UAE attaches to the multilateral trading system and to international cooperation. Our work, or rather your work, Honorable Ministers, over the coming days towards our shared objective and responsibility of a successful 13th WTO Ministerial Conference is more important than ever. In particular, among the growing economic uncertainties and geopolitical tensions, we must collectively ensure that the WTO is fit to respond to the challenges of today. These coming days will be crucially important, and I very much hope that members will seize this opportunity to discuss, exchange views, and attain further convergence with a view to providing the much-needed direction to ensure a strong and positive trajectory for the organization. Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, it is therefore my great honor to transmit formally to yourselves for ministerial consideration the results and status of the work conducted in the intense preparatory period leading to this conference. I'm pleased to report that my colleagues, your ambassadors and representatives, have worked hard since MC12 and have further intensified their work over the last weeks and days in Geneva. I was heartened by the collective resolve to deliver, and I take this opportunity to commend the efforts of your ambassadors and representatives, as well as their teams in Geneva. Despite these efforts, some differences remain. The results of their work will be before you in different stages of finalization for consideration and action. Let me start by presenting to you the annual reports on WTO activities. These reports capture the work that has been undertaken in the organization, including the work that has been undertaken with respect to mandates that ministers provided at previous ministerial conferences. In this context, let me highlight the factual report, and I quote, on follow-up work to the ministerial declaration on the WTO response to the COVID-19 pandemic and preparedness for future pandemics, end of quote, as well as the state of play report of the efforts undertaken since MC12 to improve the daily functioning of WTO councils, committees, and negotiating bodies. On WTO reform in particular, let me recap the immense effort undertaken by members to fulfill ministers' commitment at MC12 to work towards necessary reform of the WTO in all its functions. My predecessor in the role of GC chairperson and I have reported to members on WTO reform work at every regular meeting of the General Council, including on the informal meetings on WTO reform. These informal meetings focus on development, the deliberative function, and institutional matters, as well as trade and industrial policy. At the senior officials meeting last October 2023, members also discussed the subject of trade and environmental sustainability. In addition, members have tabled a number of reform-related proposals with innovative ideas and suggestions, which have been discussed at the General Council and its subsidiary bodies. I wish to take this opportunity to commend all members for their hard work and commitment in this regard. Let me also, at this point, and with the overall WTO reform efforts in mind, positively note that in July 2023, members successfully concluded the 7th appraisal of the Trade Policy Review Mechanism, otherwise known as the TPRM. Specifically, members agreed on a set of forward-looking measures to strengthen the TPRM as a transparency tool while making trade policy reviews more efficient and less burdensome. On dispute settlement reform, the chairperson of the DSB provided a report to the 14 February special meeting of the General Council, in which he recalled ministers' commitment at MC12 to conduct discussions with a view to having a fully and well-functioning dispute settlement system accessible to all members by 2024. In this regard, I refer you to the draft ministerial decision on dispute settlement reform, which is before you for consideration. Also in this context, I note that there is a dedicated working session envisaged in the conference program. Excellencies, members have also engaged on other follow-up from MC12, as contained in paragraph 8 of the MC12 outcome document, related to the work on the decisions in favor of LDCs on services waiver, preferential rules of origin, and DFQF. I reported on this work in each regular session of the General Council, including most recently the February 14 special meeting of the General Council. My report was subsequently circulated. At the special GC meeting as well, we heard from the TRIPS Council chairperson that since MC12, members have also engaged on paragraph 8 of the ministerial decision on the TRIPS agreement with regard to the extension to cover the production and supply of COVID-19 diagnostics and therapeutics. In her report to the 14 February special meeting of the General Council, the TRIPS Council chairperson informed members that despite efforts, consensus could not be reached. At the same time, she noted that all members supported a forward-looking agenda to discuss IP and pandemic preparedness in an effort which will continue in the TRIPS Council beyond this conference. I'm pleased to inform you, Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, that in October 2023, on the margins of the WTO senior officials meeting, the General Council adopted a decision on the extension of unilateral duty-free and quota-free preferences in favor of countries graduated from the LDC category. Since then, work has continued intensively on Annex 2 of the LDC group proposal related to, and I quote, a smooth transition package in favor of members graduating from the LDC category, as we heard from the CTD chairperson at the 14 February special meeting of the General Council. After that meeting, further consultations were undertaken with delegations, and I'm pleased to report that there appears to be broad convergence on the draft decision on WTO smooth transition support measures in favor of countries graduated from the LDC category. Excellencies, this positive momentum may allow you, the ministers, to formally adopt this decision at this conference. Also at the special General Council meeting of 14 February, we heard from the chairperson of the SPS committee with regard to the report delivered under his own responsibility in view of paragraph 10 of the requested follow-up from the MC12 SPS declaration on responding to modern SPS challenges. Let me also recall that earlier in December, the General Council agreed to transmit to this ministerial conference the draft decision on the work program on small economies, which is before ministers for adoption. On another positive note, the accession working parties of the Comoros and Timor-Leste completed their work earlier this year, and the accession packages of these two LDCs will be before you, the ministers, for formal action in a moment. This is another encouraging step towards achieving the organization's aim of universal membership, and in doing so, facilitating the integration of LDCs into the multilateral trading system. It would be remiss of me, Excellencies, not to mention members' tireless efforts in Geneva on other areas, where some draft texts are before you for your consideration and finalization. I shall only touch upon these briefly, as more detailed reports on the state of play in these respective areas will be provided at the scene-setting session tomorrow morning. On the negotiations, Her Excellency the Director General, as chairperson of the Trade Negotiations Committee, has provided reports on the various negotiating issues to each regular session of the General Council. Her most recent report to the February 14 special GC meeting was accompanied by relevant updates by the chairpersons of the negotiating bodies. In addition, chairpersons of relevant negotiating bodies also circulated written reports. The report and various draft texts demonstrate the immense efforts that members continue to commit to delivering outcomes on these crucially important negotiating issues. These matters are before you, Honorable Ministers, and will be taken up in the dedicated working sessions over the course of the conference. On MC13 related outcomes under the General Council and its subsidiary bodies, let me highlight the following points. On the draft Abu Dhabi Ministerial Declaration, this process was launched by myself in my capacity as chairperson of the General Council last year in November, with the circulation of a zero draft outline or skeleton. The document that is before you at this conference is the result of a highly interactive, long and arduous process that has required delegations to listen to each other, understand different perspectives, and find room to compromise. The work has culminated in the circulation of 24-paragraph draft declaration. An explanatory note, you will have seen, was also issued as an addendum, which also comprises draft language in tabular format that at the time we left Geneva did not enjoy sufficient support to be reflected in the draft declaration. Honorable Ministers, as you know, 2 working sessions of this conference will be dedicated to this draft declaration and will provide the relevant space to resolve the remaining issues. I therefore call upon members to demonstrate the much-needed pragmatism and flexibility to finalize this declaration. Needless to say, arriving at a consensual declaration will demonstrate members' shared commitment to the objectives of this organization. I might add that it would also send a strong message to the world of the WTO's continued relevance in these uncertain times. I will make a detailed report on the process and status of the draft declaration at the scene-setting session tomorrow morning, and we will focus on the pending issues in the 2 dedicated working sessions over the coming days. In this regard, let me also emphasize that I look forward to supporting the MC13 chairperson and His Excellency Minister Mmusi Kgafela of Botswana in finalizing this effort. Let me also say a few words on the work program on e-commerce. Members held a series of thematic dedicated discussions on several identified topics under the leadership of facilitator Ambassador Usha Dwaka Kanabadi of Mauritius. The topics were consumer protection, the digital divide, legal and regulatory frameworks, digital trade facilitation and facilitation of electronic transactions, digital industrialization, and e-commerce related technology transfer. In addition, 3 dedicated discussions focused on the moratorium, pursuant to the MC12 decision to intensify discussions on its scope, definition, and impact. The work program on electronic commerce was also discussed in all regular sessions of the General Council, and the facilitator made regular reports as reflected in the annual reports of the General Council and its relevant subsidiary bodies. In December 2023, members started consideration of text-based proposals for a draft ministerial decision. 4 proposals were received. They share some common elements with regard to the work under the work program. Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, the main divergence relates to whether or not the moratorium should be extended. Members have engaged in different configurations, including amongst the proponents. Despite these efforts, they could not agree on a single text for a draft ministerial decision. Consequently, all 4 draft decisions are before you, honorable ministers, for your consideration. In this regard, let me also recall the facilitator's report delivered to the special meeting of the General Council on the 14th of February this year. Excellencies, you would have seen the dedicated working session on this matter, and I very much hope that this ministerial conference will enable members to find a mutually acceptable solution. Likewise, another moratorium is set to expire at this session of the ministerial conference, the one related to TRIPS non-violation and situation complaints. At MC12, the ministers directed the TRIPS Council to continue its examination of the scope and modalities for TRIPS non-violation and situation complaints, and agreed that in the meantime, members would not initiate such complaints under the TRIPS agreement. The TRIPS Council considered the matter at its regular meetings since MC12, but did not reach a final agreement on its recommendations. The TRIPS Council chairperson has circulated a draft recommendation to extend the moratorium until MC14 for members' consideration. You, honorable ministers, may therefore also need to consider this issue in the course of this conference. Let me also draw your attention to a draft ministerial declaration on strengthening regulatory cooperation to reduce technical barriers to trade. At the special meeting of the General Council on 14 February, I took note that the proposal enjoyed widespread support among the WTO membership, and that pending one reservation, this draft declaration could be adopted at this conference. Since then, I'm delighted to report that good progress has been made and that this declaration can be adopted by you, the ministers, at this conference. This is a very positive development. I should also note that members have been active in tabling proposals on other matters, which have been discussed in the General Council and its subsidiary bodies. I understand that proponents will continue their outreach in an attempt to build convergence. As I conclude, Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, Director General, let me assure you of my unwavering support as Chairperson of the General Council to work towards our shared objective and responsibility for a successful 13th WTO Ministerial Conference. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ambassador. With work from Geneva, Thank you, Ambassador. With work from Geneva now formally transmitted to the Ministerial Conference, let me draw your attention to the provisional agenda for the Ministerial Conference and documents WT/MIN/24/W/1. In doing so, I would like to note that the draft text have been discussed in Geneva during the MC13 preparatory phase. Abu Dhabi Ministerial Declaration, as well as all members' proposals, remain on the table for the Ministers' considerations and may be taken up under Item 2 of the agenda concerning action by Ministers. We will also shortly take up under Item 2 of the agenda the accession of Comoros and Timor-Leste. With this understanding, I propose that the agenda is adopted. Thank you. The agenda is adopted. I now refer to the modalities of the 13th session of the WTO Ministerial Conference and document WT/MIN24/INF/9-Rev1. This provides the official program of our conference and explanations of each session. Let me take this opportunity to thank the 3 vice chairs of the Ministerial Conference who will assist me during the next few days. His Excellency Honorable Mr. Todd, Minister of Trade and Export of New Zealand, who is also the facilitator for the work program and electronic commerce. His Excellency Mr. Luke, Minister of Trade of Cameroon, His Excellency Mr. Jorge, Minister of Industry and Commerce from Panama, who is also facilitator for the ministerial discussion on trade and inclusion. It is with a great honor to share this task with you all. I also thank all of the minister facilitators who have agreed to assist us in moving forward in various areas on the table during the conference. Her Excellency, Ms. Rabika, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry of Kenya, who is a facilitator for agriculture. His Excellency, Mr. Aspen, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Norway, who is the Minister Facilitator for Dispute Settlement Reform. His Excellency, the Honorable Mr. Kerry, MB, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Barbados, who is the Minister Facilitator for Development. His Excellency, Mr. Martin, Permanent Secretary of State of Iceland, who is the Minister Facilitator for Fisheries Subsidies. I likewise thank ministers who have agreed to assist with the convergence building sessions as needed. His Excellency, Mr. Musomi, Minister of Trade and Industry of Botswana, who I have requested to assist me with the draft of Abu Dhabi Ministerial Declaration. Her Excellency, Ms. Mary, Minister of Small Businesses, Export Promotion and International Trade of Canada. His Excellency, Mr. Manuel, Minister of Trade of Costa Rica. His Excellency, Mr. Manish, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Regional Integration and International Trade of Mauritius. His Excellency, Mr. Qais, Minister of Commerce, Industry and Investments Promotion of Oman. And His Excellency, Mr. Lito, Minister of Trade Negotiations of Samoa. And His Excellency, Mr. Kim, Minister of Trade and Industry of Singapore. And His Excellency, Ambassador Dacio, Permanent Representatives to the WTO of Honduras. Again, thank you all to all the ministers, facilitators, the Director General, and I looking forward to work with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Al-Sayudi, MC13 Chairperson. At this juncture, we invite everyone to remain seated as we prepare for the second segment of this opening session, the ceremonial part of the opening session.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, we appreciate your patience. We are now standing by for the arrival of His Highness, and we request you to kindly remain seated in preparation for that moment. Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, making his way to the ICC Hall is His Highness Sheikh Khalid bin Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, the Chairman of the Executive Council. And now, distinguished guests, we rise for the national anthem of the United Arab Emirates.
The story of the United Arab Emirates is a story of trade. For centuries, a ceaseless flow of goods, people, and ideas has connected the Arabian Peninsula with the world. In the early 16th century, the spice routes bridged east and west through the trade of nutmeg, pepper, and other valuable commodities. By the 1800s, the region's principal source of wealth was pearls. The port cities of Abu Dhabi, Dubai, and Sharjah began to flourish as the industry attracted traders from the region. In 1958, the Emirates found itself in possession of another prized resource, oil, and it marked the beginning of a new chapter in the country's history. On December 2nd, 1971, the United Arab Emirates was founded, an ambitious nation ready to take its place in the world. Emerging industries such as steel, aluminum, and petrochemicals are supported by new ports and airports, enabling the UAE to join the GCC Free Trade Area, which was implemented in 1983. Then, on April 10th, 1996, the UAE secured its membership of the World Trade Organization. The belief in trade as a key driver of growth and economic diversification continues to underpin the country's vision, as it embraces sectors such as logistics, tourism, finance, technology, renewable energy, and healthcare. Today, the UAE is a global logistics hub, home to the 9th busiest container port in the world. It is also among the top 5 re-exporters of major commodities such as rice, tea, and coffee. In 2023, the nation's non-oil foreign trade, including services, surpassed $950 billion for the first time. Now, in 2024, the UAE hosts the 13th Ministerial Conference of the World Trade Organization. The UAE is determined to play its part in fostering a new era of exchange and help deliver new opportunities for every nation.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, which also translates to, in the name of Allah, the most graceful, the most merciful. Your Highness, Sheikh Khalid bin Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, Chairman of the Executive Council. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, may the peace of Allah be upon you all, and welcome to the 13th WTO Ministerial Conference Abu Dhabi for this year 2024 that has a very beautiful slogan, which is delivering for people through trade. Now, thank you very much for that. A great audience of delegates, we must say. But let's get to the here and now. Distinguished guests, now our first remarks are going to be relayed to you in the Arabic language, and therefore we kindly request you to have your translation device ready on the go in preparation for that moment. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, let us get to the first honor of all honors. Please welcome with me the host country remarks, as it will be relayed to you by His Excellency Dr. Thani bin Ahmed Al-Ziyudi, the Minister of State for Foreign Trade of the United Arab Emirates, Chairperson of the Ministerial Conference of the WTO. Let's give him a welcome.
سمو الشيخ خالد بن محمد بن زايد آل نهيان ولي عهد أبو ظبي رئيس المجلس التنفيذي لإمارة أبو ظبي، فخامة غزالي عثمان رئيس جمهورية القمر المتحدة الشقيقة، فخامة خوزيه راموس هورتا رئيس جمهورية تيمور الشرقية الصديقة، أصحاب المعالي والسعادة، معالي الدكتورة نغوزي المديرة العامة لمنظمة التجارة العالمية، الحضور الكريم، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أرحب بكم جميعاً باسم دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة في أبو ظبي وفي المؤتمر الوزاري الثالث عشر لمنظمة التجارة العالمية، وأشكركم على هذا الحضور المهم والذي يعول عليه العالم في مواصلة حشد التوافق والجهود المشتركة لإعادة تشكيل مستقبل التجارة الدولية. السيدات والسادة، انطلاقاً من إدراك دولة الإمارات وقيادتها الرشيدة لأهمية التجارة المفتوحة والقائمة على قواعد شفافة وعادلة في تحقيق النمو الاقتصادي والتنمية الشاملة عالمياً، فنحن مستمرون في هذا النهج عبر المزيد من الانفتاح تجارياً واستثمارياً العالم. نلتقي اليوم بالعاصمة الإماراتية أبو ظبي، المكان الأمثل لتحقيق الأهداف المرجوة من هذا المؤتمر، فمنذ تأسيسها حرصت دولة الإمارات على أن تكون نقطة التقاء وداعما لتحقيق التوافق الدولي على الدوام. وتفتخر الإمارات بإرثها العريق وتاريخها الممتد الذي جعل منها مركزا تجاريا محوريا يربط أرجاء العالم، واستمرارا لنهجها الدائم والمتواصل لدعم حرية التجارة. فقد أعلنت دولة الإمارات قبل يومين عن تقديمها منحة بقيمة 10 ملايين دولار لصناديق منظمة التجارة العالمية، وبالأخص صندوق تمويل اتفاقية دعم مصايد الأسماك، والإطار المتكامل المعزز لدعم البلدان الأقل نمواً، وصندوق دعم المرأة في مجال التصدير الذي تم إطلاقه خلال هذا المؤتمر. وهذه المنحة الإماراتية رسالة مهمة مفادها أن دولة الإمارات برؤية وتوجيهات قيادتها الرشيدة تواصل دعمها للنظام التجاري العالمي متعدد الأطراف الذي تشرف عليه المنظمة، باعتبارها محفزاً للنمو المستدام للاقتصاد العالمي ومساهماً في الارتقاء بحياة الشعوب حول العالم. الحضور الكريم، ندعوكم إلى إجراء حوار بناء بين أعضاء المنظمة للتوصل إلى رؤية متوافقة وموحدة فيما يخص القضايا التجارية الرئيسية، وبما يسهم في استخدام التجارة كوسيلة لتحفيز النمو الاقتصادي وخلق فرص العمل ورفع مستويات المعيشة لشعوب العالم. أشكركم، أتمنى لكم طيب الإقامة في العاصمة أبو ظبي، كما أتطلع بكل تفاؤل لما سيصدر عن المؤتمر من قرارات وتوصيات لتحقيق هدفنا المشترك، فلنوحد جهودنا من أجل ازدهار التجارة الدولية ورخاء العالم. وشكرا.
Our thanks to His Excellency Dr. Thani bin Ahmed Az-Zayudi for these remarks. And now, distinguished guests, please join me in welcoming Her Excellency Dr. Ngozi Okojo-Iweala, the Director General of the World Trade Organization.
Your Highness Sheikh Khaled bin Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, Your Excellency President Azali Assoumani of the Union of the Comoros, Excellency President Jose Manuel Ramos Horta of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste, Excellency Dr. Thani bin Ahmed Al-Zayudi, Minister of State for Foreign Trade of the United Arab Emirates, and Chairperson of the 13th session of the WTO Ministerial Conference. Our MC13 Vice Chairs, Excellency Mr. Luke Magloire Mbaga Tagana, Minister of Trade of Cameroon, Excellency Honorable Todd Macleay, Minister for Agriculture, Forestry, Trade of New Zealand, Excellency Mr. Jorge Rivera Staff, Minister of Commerce and Industry of Panama, WTO General Council Chairperson Dr. Atalia Lesiba Molokome of Botswana, Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. We are honored at this opening session of the 13th WTO Ministerial Conference to be graced by the presence of His Highness Sheikh Khaled bin Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. On behalf of the World Trade Organization, we thank His Highness, the government and people of the United Arab Emirates, for hosting us in the land of tolerance, innovation, and inspiration. With its rich and vibrant trading culture, the United Arab Emirates and this beautiful city of Abu Dhabi provide the perfect setting for our ministerial conference. I would like to pay tribute to His Highness for inviting WTO ministers to be inspired and energized by the dynamism that this city has to offer. Thank you for the warm hospitality and exceptional arrangements that have been put together. The ADNEC sets an impressive stage for ministers to work towards concrete outcomes that deliver for people through trade. the appropriate theme that our hosts have chosen. The UAE's belief in an open, transparent, and rules-based multilateral trading system, and in the power of trade to transform people's economic prospects, is vividly seen in the evolution of its economy and society. Trade runs through this nation's blood. The UAE testifies to how trade can improve lives and livelihoods of people and transform a small and undiversified economy into a formidable, resilient, and prosperous one. 3 decades ago, the United Arab Emirates took the decision to integrate into the multilateral trading system by becoming a GATT contracting party. The UAE officially became a WTO member in April 1996 and has since become one of the world's most important international trade hubs. The United Arab Emirates is a trailblazer in international trade, and our MC13 chairman, His Excellency Dr. Thani bin Ahmed Al Zayudi, is the future of trade personified. Empowering youth as economic actors has been at the center of his work through various startups and businesses, big and small, working to stimulate innovation as a means for economic growth and social inclusion. Excellencies, the 13th session of the WTO Ministerial Conference could not be in more capable hands. With the UAE as our host, Minister Al-Zayudi as our chair, I'm hopeful that MC13 will be the success that people across the globe deserve during these uncertain and difficult times. On the eve of MC13, the UAE once again demonstrated its commitment to the multilateral trading system by contributing $10 million to 3 WTO trust funds, the Fisheries Funding Mechanism, the Enhanced Integrated Framework, and the Women Exporters in the Digital Economy Fund, which we launched yesterday, for the benefit of developing and least developed country members. The UAE was one of the first members to deposit its instrument of acceptance of the Agreement on Fisheries Subsidies. This support and leadership is much appreciated, and we thank His Highness and the government and people of the United Arab Emirates. I will conclude my remarks by once again expressing my profound appreciation to His Highness Sheikh Khaled bin Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, for being with us at this opening session. Your presence has provided us encouragement that we need to work harder, smarter, and work together to deliver meaningful outcomes for all our citizens through trade. So, WTO trade ministers, the UAE has set the stage for a successful conference. It is now your turn to build on it and to reach consensus on MC13 decisions and declarations that would help build a brighter future for global trade and a global economy that works for people everywhere. Thank you.
原来好的益生菌真的可以帮助入睡。太阳星全效克菲尔益生菌是国家认证 AB 克菲尔益生菌，含7种有身份证的专利活菌，能产生 GABA、色氨酸等助眠因子，难怪吃了更快入睡，也睡得更好。太阳星全效克菲尔益生菌也是台湾市场上唯一添加克菲尔乳杆菌 M1 的产品，这是由台湾知名的大学季转，对季节敏感、调整体质的朋友真的是一大福音。还有这支还添加被称为超级食物的羽衣甘蓝萃取物，不少研究都指出十字花科蔬菜有助抗炎及防癌。像是羽衣甘蓝含有高量的叶黄素、贝塔胡萝卜素、维生素 K、维生素 C、叶酸等丰富营养素。太阳 阳新全效克菲尔益生菌专利制成，无塑化剂、无重金属、无人工添加物、无410项农药、无香料调味剂、无防腐剂、无色素，7大保证、7大认证，觉得好安心。每日克菲尔，时刻美好 ，Good Feel Feel Good，快点购下单！太阳新全效克菲尔益生菌。